Pierce conducted with Snoop Dogg less than 24 hours after a Los Angeles jury found him and his bodyguard, McKinley Lee, not guilty of murder in connection with the shooting death of 20-year-old Philip Waldemariam. The jury deadlocked on one charge, voluntary manslaughter, which means Snoop and Lee could be retried on that charge. We'll keep you posted on that, of course. It's been 2.5 years since the charismatic rapper was originally charged with murder, and now that his trial is over, he's finally able to speak his mind about the feelings and emotions he had during this long case.
Make sure y'all get my death row symbol. Symbolization of greatness. Yeah, pull yours out, DK. I couldn't wear it through court. I had to keep it up under my tie. Now court is over.
We, the jury in above entitled action, find the defendant, Calvin Brodus, not guilty of the crime of murder in the first degree.
I'm curious, what was going through your mind at the time that the jury was reading the verdict?
I left it in God's hand, Abby. That's why I looked so stone-faced. I didn't have no expressions. You know what I'm saying? It was all inner. I prayed on it. My family prayed on it. David Kenner, you know what I'm saying, put on the bomb case. Dr. Ray, Marshall Morrissey, Paul Palladino, the whole dream team. They did what they were supposed to do, and they gave the baton to the jury, and I couldn't do nothing but just bank on them and worry about what the outcome was going to be, as far as to just sit there and hold my position and keep my head up high and just, you know, wait for the outcome.
Right. When you talk about the dream team, it's interesting because obviously after O.J., you know, the price of having a team like that is certainly not what the average person and certainly not what the average black American male can afford. Do you feel that there is a price on justice? Would you have gotten the same type of, you know, defense team if you were not in the rap game like you are, making money like you are now?
I mean, only if David Kenner just would have had love for me on that level and just did it for me, just not for the paper, but just doing it for the love, because I know that's how he is about me. He's not concerned with the money issue, and you know what I'm saying, and I knew that when he did his closing argument, you know what I'm saying, because it brought him to tears, it brought me to tears, and a couple of jurors to tears, because he was actually telling them, I'm not representing Snoop Doggy Dogg for Snoop Doggy Dogg. I'm representing him because I love him as an individual. I knew him before this incident. I know him after this incident. And I'm giving y'all control of his life, in which I've had control over for the past 2.5 years. And I love this man. If you take him away, it's like you taking me away.
Right. But is there a price tag, though,
you know
on
what's
justice?
happening. You know it's a price tag. People like Ed Nissen and Bobby Grace, they eat up defendants that don't have no money, that don't have no stability to fight the case, because they so dirty with what they do. They so undermined, and they find out that victims have guns on them, and they throw that out the idea, do interviews with you. No, he didn't have a gun. Then come back 2 months later, oh yeah, he had a gun, but he wasn't going for it. Then they come back 4 months, yeah, he was going for a gun, but he was only going for it after McKinley Lee went for it. So that lets you know there's obstruction to the law. And I just want to tell them, all them pennies you put on the table, they mounted up to nothing. Bobby Grace, nothing. Uncle Tom's nephew, from me to you.
But do you feel he was doing his job?
No, he wasn't doing his job. If he was doing his job, he would have called the case off. That's doing your job. Seek justice. He knew we was not guilty. He knew that. He knew McKinley Lee acted in self-defense. McKinley Lee has never, ever, ever, ever been involved with gangs. I have. McKinley Lee has never been involved with gangs. He was the trigger man. So what's the whole case about? Oh, it's about Snoop Dogg being gang affiliated, but Snoop Dogg didn't pull the trigger. He drove the car away from his bodyguard acting in self-defense. But if you look at them, they don't care about that. It's Snoop Dogg. We some low-life district attorneys that don't have no name, that don't got nothing going for ourselves. If we wash him up, we large. We bigger than Chris Darden and Marsh and Clark and all them. We gonna be large. That's what his whole mission was about. He wasn't focused on the case. All he was focused on was washing me up.
I remember when we talked to McKinley Lee, he had mentioned that this case was really more so about him and that the actions that he took in his job. How do you feel that the action that he did take to protect your life resulted in the death of another young man?
I mean, I feel bad, you know what I'm saying? But yet and still, Malik done his job. His job was to protect me, protect him and anybody that was around me at any time. That's what he was hired for, as a personal bodyguard. That's what bodyguards are hired for. If you go get at Garth Brooks, Kenny Rogers, any one of them, and ask them, what is your bodyguard's job? Did you guys see the movie The Bodyguard with Whitney Houston? What was Kevin Costner's job? To protect Whitney Houston from any danger that came to her while she was performing, even while she wasn't performing. And as you've seen, the movie projected everything that could happen to you as a celebrity. But it really didn't go in depth as far as our situation, but it gave it across as clear as possible as they could. But if we was to do a movie called The Bodyguard, it'd be so similar to that.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about lifestyle for a minute, because did the danger come to you, or were you always around this danger because of the environment that you were living in at that time?
No. I mean, the danger came to us. We perceived it as a threat. That's the reason why Malik acted the way he acted in the situation. You know, I look at it like this. If Malik would have waited another second, I might not be here doing an interview with you right now. If he would have waited another half a second, I might have a hole in my head. He might have a hole in his head. He might have a hole in his arm. You never know. But the thing was, God put us in a situation, and Malik acted in a manner the way he felt was reasonable, in which I felt was reasonable, in which my attorneys felt was reasonable, and in which the juries found was reasonable. So that's why I'm here doing an interview with y'all now.
Right. In that sense, and I asked Malik this too, the reasonable, to even be there in the first place, I had asked him, and I'll ask you this too, is could the situation have been avoided if you just drove by and just said, you know what, forget this guy, let's not even deal with him?
It wasn't like we was looking for him. We didn't go looking for nobody. I live 2 blocks away from that neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? That's my neighborhood. I mean, not gang territory neighborhood, but this is where I reside. This is my home. So aren't I entitled to drive around my neighborhood? If I want to go get me a candy bar, or go get some gas, or maybe go see a friend of mine who lives down the street, I'm entitled to do that. I didn't go out seeking to do anything to hurt anybody, because the situation is, when we pulled up, if that was the mission, he would have been gone from day one. From the beginning, there wouldn't have been no conversation. There wouldn't have been none of that. The point was, we were not looking for trouble. We were on our way to the studio to go perform and finish my album up.
Not being able to really talk about your feelings during this time, what was the one persistent feeling that you had that you wanted to let people know during this whole time, but you really couldn't come out and talk?
And I felt bad about Mr. Watermelon being dead. Me personally, I'd rather him just have been shot and been in court lying, saying that we tried to kill him, or telling the truth, saying that, hey, yeah, I did go for a gun. That's the way I would have rather seen it.
So you do feel empathy or sympathy for the family?
That's why I'm not all the way happy. I mean, I'm happy that it's over with, but how can I be happy about somebody being dead? You know what I'm saying? I'm not pleased for that. I wish it would have never happened. I'm just, you know, happy that it's over with and I can move on with my life, but it's going to take some time for it to get all the way out of my system.
Now, knowing that you are not, or at least at this point in time, that you are no longer under a house, you know, or home release or supervised release program, I think that's the, is that the official?
Yeah, that's the official
official
word.
title.
Yeah, home supervision. But, I mean, I really want to thank the judge for putting me on home supervision. I want to speak on that, too, because that showed me a lot of discipline as far as, you know, being in at a certain time, getting up on a certain time, and just associating myself around the right people. When he placed me on house arrest, I didn't understand it until I got on it, because what he was doing was warning me for the danger that I could be walking into. Being in the house at 10 o'clock, you got to, you know what I'm saying, train yourself to not be around these people who don't care about you, because it's your life that you need to be concerned with, and that's all he showed me, and I appreciate him for that.
That's interesting that you say that you had, it actually worked as a form of discipline. What were some of the changes? Did you get to spend more time with your family? What did you do when you were home?
It focused me more or less on this case, because to be real with you, I really wasn't focused on this case until I'd be sitting in the courtroom hearing the DA talking bad about me. Because that's how David Kenner is. He's like, don't worry about it. Everything is everything. So I leave it in his hands and leave it in God's hands. So until they took that freedom away from me to where I couldn't be out and partying all night, going to clubs and doing this and that, I didn't really understand this case and realize how vital it was. But once I started coming in at 10 and watching the news and seeing all the tragic stuff that was occurring, I was like, wow, this put me back in perspective that I could be walking into a death trap, but now I'm at home, comfortable chilling with my baby and my woman and just enjoying life and getting ready for the next day.
Right. Did you get closer to your son during this time?
Yeah, because, you know, he was more or less a mama's baby back then, but now he's a little Snoop Dogg, you know what I'm saying? He loves to be around his daddy, you know, so I mean, that's why I say I thank the judge for that, because it drew me closer to my son as well. Because I was so busy trying to get so much done looking at the worst of the outcome, thinking maybe if I do so happen to get convicted, maybe I have this and this going for me just in case, because I'm a reasonable person. I think like that.
Let's talk about some of the support that you've had from family and friends. I know that every day, practically, your father was there, your mother was there. Towards the end, you brought your son down. There was one person that I did not see down there, and it was Dr. Dre. And knowing that he was your so-called mentor and the guy that you started off with, why wasn't he there?
I don't know, personally. But I mean, I used to always go get at him and talk to him and, you know, holler at him about the case in general. And he supported me through it, but the point of him coming down there, you know, I really can't explain why he didn't come, you know what I'm saying? I don't know, you know what I'm saying? But I guess, I don't know. But I ain't mad at him for that, you know what I'm saying?
What's your relationship like now?
Oh, we still the same place, it's just I'm growing, I'm maturing now.